So, good morning. It's 10 a.m. and this will be the video for the 27th of October. And my guest, Steve Hart, is with me again. And the title that he selected for this video and conversation is Change in the Matrix, something that most of us that are aware of what's been happening in the world want very much. So, Steve, please take it away.
Well, you and I were talking earlier about how what we want is not happening as quickly as we want for it to happen. And there's a reason why. And I'm the same way. Don't get me wrong. I mean, I'd like to see change happen much quicker too. But you have to understand that change is slow, and there's a reason why it's slow. Because if it was immediate, if it was radical, it'd be far more painful for everyone. And you have to understand this, and that is, nothing happens in the matrix or in consciousness itself unless the collective agrees to it. And what I mean by that, let me explain a little bit. The collective means all the spirit beings, both living and physical and non-physical, are connected. And there's a connection and there's a harmony within our higher selves. Those of us who are in physical form, we're all connected in our higher selves. And in that collective consciousness, there is harmony, there is agreement. Now, we don't all perceive the same thing. We're not all experiencing the same thing. So the collective understands that and knows that. And the collective is allowing time, as we call it, to transform, and there's a process that has to be we have to go through for us to find and experience this change. So the change comes from the intention of the collective. Do you understand what I'm saying when I'm talking about the collective? Does that make sense to you, Ron?
Yeah, I understand what you mean by the collective. As far as change coming slowly, my idea has always been, if we don't take them out and get them out, I mean the cabal, if we don't get them out quickly, they're going to figure out a way to re-entrench themselves. So,
but there's, yeah, I understand what you're saying, and it appears that way. Yes, it does, but I don't think it's really happening that way. Because the change that really has to take place, is within us first. It can't. The reason they have power to maintain the control that they have is because we are not aware of who we are, and we have allowed them to have that power. And they understand that. They do have esoteric knowledge that gives them the power to enslave us. Those of us who are in the matrix, who are stuck in the matrix. But you have to remember, the elite that you're talking about, the cabal, they're still in the matrix too. They're part of the matrix too. So they're enslaved to the system just as we are, or have been. And I'm not. I'm removing myself from the matrix, just like a lot of your listeners are, and you yourself. Or once we begin to wake up and see our freedom, see the fact that we have been slaves. And once we begin to see the matrix, the process has already begun. And that's what we have to remember. Now, what we want then is, once we see it and experience it and feel it, we want to have it happen immediately. But it doesn't work that way. It doesn't work that way because it would be too dramatic. Even just the perception of what we have in our own mind about what we want, that is just the beginning of it. And it takes a process for us to let go of our own attachments to this matrix, because we're still attached to this far more than what you would believe we are.
Oh, no, I agree. And that's one of the things that I think I mentioned in the video that's up today, that, I'm attached, and I'm trying to get to where Anastasia says, of seeing the positive.
Yep.
And it's hard to do that
I was going to say, how well do you do that?
when we've been programmed in the negative for such a long time.
That's
I
right.
mean, I saw the interaction between Vladimir and Anastasia, and he just didn't get what she was saying because he had a different point of reference, and most of us are in that different point of reference.
The ego wants it now, just like a small child. You know, I mean, I want it now. I want it now. Why can't I have it now? It wants it now. And the reason why the ego wants it now is because the ego is driven by fear. It's empowered and it's under a force energy of fear that what the ego identifies with. But in the present moment, that's where the love is. And the process is a slow process. It's not an immediate thing. It's held in the present moment. So in the present moment, Ron, think about this. Think of it this way. Right now, you and I, we're not being controlled in this very moment right now. Now, our mind, our ego, has a tendency to say, but I still am controlled. I still have to do certain things, you know, submit and have money, make money, and there's a lot of confusion in our minds as to how it is that we can live outside of this matrix. But what I want to try to explain is that the process is a process of love, and it only happens in the now moment. So right now in this now moment, we are experiencing that. Now we can choose to experience the fear and focus on that, but all that does is just it aggravates us and gets us all stirred up.
Yeah, well, I read in Anastasia again, where they came to arrest her in book 3, and she had a soldier grab each arm. She remained absolutely calm, and you know, they actually drew blood. I don't remember exactly how that was. Again, I think that they shot at her, and all the bullets disintegrated before they reached her, except the first one. The first one grazed her and caused her to bleed. But she remained calm in the whole thing and disabled them.
Okay, I believe that that's possible, but you also know that that takes a higher vibration of thought and resonance between heart and mind for something like that to happen.
Yeah, she was never in the brainwashed system. She was.
Right. That's right.
He was never brainwashed. So
we have to be freed from the matrix to be able to have those type of experiences, where I believe that there are, we have the capability to free ourselves in the physical form. People will be blinded to whatever it is that we do not want them to see, or they'll not be able to hear or be aware of whatever, well, I don't want to go into all that because a lot of people say, well, that's a lot of woo-woo. But what I am trying to say is there is an energy pattern that we can create, which you're describing in her story, which will free us from any force energy that's coming at us. I mean, I want to bring up the movie The Matrix. You know, we've talked about the movie The Matrix before, and you notice there came a point when Neo had to understand how the bullets didn't affect him too, which I think is interesting that they put that in the movie the way they did.
Which is a repeat of what on the
right. That's right. Yeah, and some people say, well, that's all fantasy, but you know what? It's not fantasy when you understand that you can raise your vibration. It's all about vibration. The only reason he and her in the story were able to do that was because he came to a point where he had his vibration high enough where he was able to do that. But in the meantime, we're not there yet. We're not there yet. At least, you know, let's put it this way. I think that we've begun because we're having this discussion. The fact that we're having this discussion, the fact that we're aware of this, and then that's the beginning. That's the process. That's the process in which it all begins. So. We want to see this change, and I'm going to say we have a tendency to focus out here and say it's not happening. And there's still people in power. I still feel like I'm enslaved because we're looking out here. But when you stop looking out here and start looking within, then you really see where your enslavement is. If you really are enslaved to your attachments to these things out here. But if you can find that you can have peace and freedom within yourself,
Then
you are free from these things out here. That's the beginning.
Temporarily in that moment.
Yes,
we have those moments where we are connected and we feel
that's right.
that we're not enslaved, and we feel.
But those moments, Ron, are what we need. More of those moments, and that's what we're experiencing. And that's the beginning of it. You know, here again, I wish it would happen just like that we could be freed forever. But I don't think it is. Even the spiritual, the figures like Jesus, for example. I mean, he was still being as spiritual as he was still crucified or killed and tortured and persecuted, and
he still got impatient with his disciples too.
Yeah. See,
when are you going to get it? Come on, you're thick skulls. Why don't you let it in?
The point is that here's the secret. We learn to go in and out of the matrix. In the movie, they came out of the matrix, but they always went back in to make the transformation, right? And they had to learn to be in the matrix and understand how the matrix worked and not disrupt the matrix, because they knew if they caused too much commotion, that would turn against them. That they would have a battle on their hands. It's the same thing with you and I. When we step out of the matrix, we can have peace and we can have that joy and love and know that we're connected. But when we go in the matrix, we understand that we have to play by the rules of the matrix. So what we're learning to do is we're learning to step in and out of the matrix. And what I'm encouraging people to do is to learn how to live at least 80% of your life, time you're awake in life, out of the matrix and not stuck in the matrix. Now, there are things that you and I have chosen to do that help give us that. And of course,
I'm nowhere near 80%.
Well, I know. Well, that's okay. I'm not placing judgment or value, but I'm saying when you get to that point, can you imagine what that feels like? I mean, here's the first thing. You and I do not have real jobs.
As the world would see it, yeah.
Yeah, I know that as the world would see it. That's my point. The point is, in the matrix, most people have a 9-to-5 job, and you get paid X number of dollars an hour and so forth. You have to do whatever your boss tells you to do and so forth. Where you and I do not have that type of job. Right. We have work that we do that we've chosen. But you're going to find that one of the shifts that's taken place in this change in the matrix is there are people within the matrix, or people, I will say people within the matrix who are going in and out of the matrix have learned not to be stuck in the matrix with their job. And that's a challenge. That is a real challenge. And that's why in my life coaching, I do a lot of coaching helping people to get out of the matrix with their work and find their true purpose of what it is, like you and I have been experiencing.
Yeah, the holistic doctor that I'm seeing is exactly that way, and the mechanic he referred me to, I'm getting to know him pretty well, and he's also one that he's not attached to the matrix. He has made certain decisions in how he's going to operate in his life,
right?
That he's not entangled like so much of the rest of the world is entangled, because he's made a command decision, if you will, that it's not going to enslave him as it enslaves most people.
All right, I want to real quickly just touch briefly here on the ambassador and some of the criticism of his work and so forth. I have to, as I said with you, I'm pretty neutral about when it comes to the ambassador and the Red Dragon family, but I think that they know something that we're touching on here, and that is that the process is slow. They know that it cannot be a radical, fast changing. And you would think, well, my gosh, if they are who they say they are, then why can't they just change it all quickly? But they also know what we've been talking about, that there is a process involved here, and that it takes a transformation of thought. And that's why we hear the ambassador continually trying to get people to see themselves and see the choices that they're making. And so he gets
very frustrated that it's so slow also.
Well, I'm sure he does, because he has a
very
frustrated, just like you and I do. And you're right. But at the same time, the process is that's why he's speaking out. He's sticking his neck out. He's just like you and I are, and talking about this. And that's what we have to do. We have to be talking about this, because as we talk about it, we're bringing it into our consciousness, and sharing it in the consciousness with everyone else. In the
So
collective.
the thing that people don't get is he doesn't reveal his name. He doesn't show on camera
Yeah,
and makes all these
I
great
understand that, and
promises.
I'm not going to make comment about that. I just want to say that the process is slow, and people like him and the Red Dragon family and other people in the um, are in a position where they see the change is taking place. No, despite what people think, the change is happening. It's going to happen. It has to happen.
No, I agree. It has to
Even
happen.
if you and I fail to do whatever it is that we're supposed to be doing, it will still continue to change, because in the collective, that's the intention of the collective. We have to understand that's the intention. So I want to talk about a few things here. I made a list of some things here as to
Okay.
what it is that we can do to encourage this change. Okay. All right. Now, some of these are pretty simple, but I think they're very important. And the first one is what I just said, and that is to stay focused on what really matters. Instead of getting focused out here and not seeing what's happening or feeling threatened by whatever, is staying focused on what really matters. And what really matters is holding the intention of love and wisdom in our heart. Now, to do that, we have to connect to our higher selves. And so there's a process that we have to work on. And the other thing is, I found that I had to remove a lot of the clutter in my life. When I got rid of the television 5 years ago, that was a huge leap. And I remember people telling me about this before I got rid of my television, how that was going to help me. And I'm going, yeah. How am I going to get into the news? How am I going to keep up? But when I finally got rid of that TV and started unplug myself from that, there was a huge leap. It was just one of the little things that uncluttered my life. And there are other things that I've done in my choices I've made in my life to unclutter my life and make it much easier for me to stay focused. And one of the things I do exercise is, of course, meditation. And I go in and connect with my higher self, and I say, okay, what is mine to do today? What is it that I need to know today? And in the now moment, not projecting things in the future or worrying about the past, but what is it I need to know right now in this now moment? So staying focused on what really matters. What really matters is a release, a healing, love, wisdom of understanding the truth of what is. And I appreciate your video on what is truth, because it's true. It's a struggle when we try and understand what is truth. But it's there. It's present with us in the now moment, only in the now moment. Okay, so stay focused on what matters, if you can understand that. The second one is to create within your heart the intention of what you want. And that means that you consciously, in your mind and with your heart, you hold an energy form, which I just described to you. And I love Dr. Bruce Lipton. He points out something interesting about science. And he says the human cell, all cells, can only do two things. They can either be in defense or they can grow and thrive. That's all they can do. They're either one mode or the other. So when your body has all the poison within and all the stress, it goes into defense mode to protect itself. When we are freed from that, then the body grows and heals and lives. It progresses. So we get to choose as to what intention we're going to hold on to. Do we want to hold a line of defense and try to constantly block out what's going on, and based upon the intention or what we're feeling in our heart of fear? Or do we want to allow that love energy to control us, or not control us? It doesn't really have to control us, to allow it to well up within our hearts and connect with it. Because, and you don't have to go out there and really create love. It's present in the now moment. You don't have to go out there and create love, but you get a choice of being able to choose life versus the defense mechanism. This is another point here I want to make, and that is to learn to be the observer and not the participant. The participants are the ones that are being controlled or enslaved by the system. They don't know what they are, that the matrix they're stuck in the matrix. But when you learn to step outside of the matrix, you become the observer. And all of a sudden now you begin to see the difference between being in the matrix and out of the matrix. I mean, it's pretty hard it's really difficult sometimes to explain to someone what that is. as it was in the movie when Morpheus is trying to explain to Neo what the Matrix is. We all have the same struggle. But when we begin to see and sense within us, as it did in the movie, and Neo was sensing there was something wrong, he wanted out of the Matrix, then that's the beginning when we become the observer. And we begin to observe the truth of what's happening. And we separate ourselves from our ego, which only really identifies with this world, because that's what's designed to do. At the same time, we learn to be the observer that actually learns to allow the transformation to take place. It's through the observation that we can feel this transformation taking place within our hearts and our minds. And then we're no longer controlled by what's out here in the Matrix itself. So then the last thing is what I already mentioned, and that is to learn how to live outside of the Matrix. And there are times when you have to go back into the Matrix, and because you got to take your kids to school, you got to feed people, you got to fix your car.
Oh, yeah.
You still have to go out. There are things you have to do, or your computer problems, but when we can learn to not let those things affect us and not let those things control us and define who we are, then we're stepping outside of the Matrix. We're removing ourselves from it.
Yeah, it's really hard when you, as I am, when you get comments, especially YouTube is horrendous. I mean, the people on there that are the most negative are the ones that are on YouTube. Facebook, I don't get quite so much.
Another thing, Ron, is don't let the people who criticize you affect you.
I've been in shorter fuse, blocking them and reading some of their messages.
So what I'm saying is learn to not react, but learn to make a choice. And that's what you're doing. You're saying, okay, if that's what you want to do, if that's their comment, then you let them go, And then, like you said earlier, you and I are having a discussion off the video here. Some of those people are probably being paid to attack you because you're making an impact. And they're a small number of people. And I'm just going to say, let them go. That's okay.
Well, as I've said, some of the new people that are showing up are people that just opened their YouTube account yesterday or the day before or something like that.
So then you have to say, well, how they find you? What is it? How are they withdrawn to you, especially if they don't agree with what you're saying? It makes it very suspicious.
Indeed, it does. And my son says, Dad, he says, lots of people don't have their YouTube things up to date with all the information and everything.
Yeah, well, that's true too. But at the same time,
they're not on the bandwagon criticizing.
Right, that's right. That's exactly what I was getting ready to say. You have to realize what these people are doing. So all I'm trying to say is there are always going to be people out there who are going to be part of the resistance.
Unfortunately,
until this whole thing collapses and we rebirth again. But that's okay. That's okay. The point is for us, we as individuals, to not react to that, to not give them power, because when we resist or we react to them, we're giving them more power, and we're recognizing them. And the fact that we're even having this discussion is okay, because we need to clarify what that is. But also, I'm encouraging you and the other listeners out there to not pay attention to these people who are being critical. It's part of the Matrix. They're part of the machine that is being designed to control us and to hold us into fear. Because when you doubt, they want people to doubt you and the ambassador. They want people to doubt what's going on in the world. And doubt feeds fear. It's part of the fear system, right?
Indeed.
So I hope that these are a few things that help you and your listeners to see that we can learn to live more outside the Matrix and not react to it. The change is taking place in the Matrix, and this is how it's happening, because we're the ones that are changing. Instead of the Matrix being enslaved to the Matrix, we are learning how to transform ourselves, and therefore the Matrix itself is changing. You caught me too early in the morning. This is an early morning for me.
Well, I've been up since a little after 3 o'clock, or I was awake a little after 3 o'clock.
I don't know how you do it.
Well, I was going to go to the gym last night, and then I thought, no, I'm going to go to bed early instead.
Mm-hmm.
And so I got to bed by 8 o'clock, but of course somebody called me between 8 and 9. I didn't answer the phone, but
your life is just a pattern of this and that. It's amazing how you do what you do.
But I actually showed up at the gym at 4 a.m.
Cool.
I didn't realize that the gym didn't open yet then, so I had to delay everything. So
well, good for you getting out there, and I mean you're doing great, man, compared to what you were months ago.
It really put my morning into a rush with getting my car there and everything else. But I got everything done that I needed to get done. Although I did abbreviate my time at the gym.
Well, you're amazing, man. I'll tell you, I couldn't do what you're doing. My patterns are a little more simplified. At the same time, I don't have that 9-to-5 job, and I get to. I mean, it's amazing how the bills are paid. I've learned to connect with spirit about my money issue and my work, and find the flow to it. I mean, it is a work. It's a work of and a process that I've gone through, and I've had to hold an intention. When people told me, "Oh no, you need to get a real job," you know, or why aren't you using your college degree? You know, I'm going, well, because it's not where I'm supposed to be, you know. And
you want to tell people what you actually do, what work you do?
Well, yeah, I'm an entertainer. When I was a child, I saw a magician come to my school, and I was just blown away by that. And I started learning magic tricks and entertaining people as a young boy. And by the time I was 14, I won an international award. And but you know, like I just said, I was encouraged not to pursue it as a career. It wasn't until in my 20s that I began to pursue magic as a career. And so I'm a comedy magician is what I do. I make people laugh. I take them to places in my shows of wonder and amazement, and make it fun. I still see it now today more as a spiritual thing, because fun and laughter has a very strong healing factor to it, and the wonder that I create with the magic, people begin to open their minds and say, "Wow, you know, I wonder if that's the possibility." So when people can see the possibilities, that has a healing factor to it too. So, and it's easy for me to do what I do, and so I run up and down along the east coast here of Florida, all the way from West Palm Beach up to Daytona and over to Orlando, doing shows of all sorts, and enjoy entertaining children and seniors, and so that's what I do. And you know, there's no guarantee to my paycheck. I never know how many shows I'm going to be doing a month or how much money is actually going to be coming in, but I'm looking at my calendar here on the wall, and the bills are being paid month after month, year after year. And but see, that's my path and I think everybody has a path. Yeah. You know, whatever it is. The thing is, we've let other people define who we are. Yeah. And if I had done that, I would be still doing another type of work that I'd probably not be happy with. Right. But when I decided to pursue whatever it is I wanted to do and be a performer, then here I am, and I'm happy. I'm having a good time. People will come up to me all the time and say, "Gee, you're great. You really seem to enjoy what you're doing." And I'd say, "Yes, I do." And so I'm not living in the matrix as some people are. I mean, I still have to get in my car and drive to the show. I still have to get things set up, and I still have to do business, you know. But the way I do it is not the way I used to do it. And it's a little bit different now. And there's a new energy in the way I do it now that I've kind of, I've learned how to pull myself away from the matrix. Yeah. And so I'm careful about, you know, what I focus on, where I spend my time, what I look at, what I eat. You know, all these things make a difference. So.
Okay, well, it's 30 minutes, and I like to limit.
Oh, wow. Gee whiz. That went by fast.
Yeah, so I want to just pull the string on this one, and maybe we'll let you do some magic on a future video.
Yeah, well,
All right.
if people can look me up, I'm on YouTube. You just type in Steve Hart, magician. You'll find videos of me performing. I got several videos out there. So
Okay. Well, thank you very much, Steve. I really
yeah,
appreciate
it's
it.
been great, and I hope that this helps people bring change into their matrix.
Yeah. It surely gives people another perspective, and that's
Yeah,
what we need.
yeah.
Thank you.
All right.